no matter what, like, I think if we can kind of try to suspend the, like, why does someone have to be wrong immediately? It doesn't mean no one's ever wrong. It's just, I think when we jump to that first, we, like, miss the part where we, like, start trying to actually understand, and then we can actually come to a consensus on, like, what perhaps we can bridge and change.
Welcome to part 2 of our conversation with Dr. Kyle Oddis. As a reminder, Kyle's shared perspectives are her own and do not represent any university policy or position.
Okay, we've kind of covered a bit of like problem solving, strengths-based, different perspectives of getting from A to B. Great. One other thing that you had brought up to me that I think is absolutely important is the bridge from education to work. Yeah. And where those are disconnecting from what skills people are gaining in education to what is being expected in the workplace, and where both sides of that equation might be misaligned. So I know you've thought about that quite a bit. So maybe catch me and our listeners up on just like what strikes you in that relationship as good or bad or needs to be figured out.
If I could put it simply, it's like it's got to be flipped. So what I mean by that is, like, often when we're trying to, like, bridge sectors or, like, develop partner or whatever, we start with me, right? Like, we start with, like, well, here's what we're doing. And I think it's sort of like, well, we're doing this. Why aren't they doing this?
Right. Come meet us where we are.
Yeah. And I think that's what I mean. Like, I think actually, for an example for like education and employment, I don't think it's like, well, this one's doing it right and that one's doing it wrong. I think both are sort of like, well, we're doing this. Why aren't they doing this? And so my question there is like, why don't we flip that around and just have it be like, well, so what are you doing?
Yeah. So when you say the problem is with, in your words, me, that's not you saying like you as an educator. No, you're saying both parties are saying me.
Yeah.
And both parties need to ask some questions actually and listen a bit.
Yeah. First.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like teaching writing require like reading too. Like you have to read too. Yeah. And oftentimes like you can't really respond to a text that you haven't read.
People try.
They sure do. That's what I mean though. It's like so to me it's sort of like, well, the answer is kind of right there. It's like, well, the reason that bridge isn't getting built is because on both sides, people are kind of saying, no, you come to me. Right.
And on two sides of the river, both parties are saying like, no, just come over here. No, you come over here.
No, exactly. And so it's like,
not working. Yeah, there's no bridge.
So who's doing that? Yeah. Who's doing the bridge work then? Yeah. And so I think that like, that goes back to goals. What is the goal? Is the goal to win the argument? Is it to have someone else like do the thing you want them to do? Or is the goal to actually support students in walking across the bridge to employment? Yeah. Or is it to support employers?
You're bringing me back to Oregon Trail. Students are more like, okay, do we ford the river? Do we caulk the wagon? How many people are we going to lose across this river right now?
Well, but unfortunately, that is actually what happens.
Sad but true.
Then what happens is the bridge isn't getting built, and then students try to go across, and then
the example that comes to mind, different field, but you've facilitated with a lot of our partners in the past and have probably seen this. Okay, so we have filled many data analytics roles over the years, and in my experience, as not a data scientist nor an academic, is a lot of the candidates I work with are like, oh, we've done our whole year of data science using R. And never have I read a job description or talked to a manager that says, oh, like we do all our data analysis in R. And I noticed this mismatch 3-4 years ago, and nothing has changed in the past 4 years. We just finished internship interviews, so folks that are right in the thick of their academic journey, and they're like, yeah, I'm looking for a data role, like R is my preferred platform. That's what I use the most. And I keep wondering, like, I know that the work side of that equation of the river is not going to build a bridge and say, you know what, we'll start using R. So yeah, but there's clearly no communication there. And the students are left high and dry because those candidates, they come in with the skills that they were given and told, like, these are the skills to do this type of work. And then in the interview process, they're almost like just counted out from the start because they were not given the bridge to make it across to this other environment that uses a whole different skill set.
Yeah. That makes me think about, like, you know, when people ask, what are the skills that transfer in writing similarly? Like, skill is like, the skill isn't the specific program that you're using. It's like what you're doing with it, right? So like in writing, the skill is critical thinking and like revision and problem solving in that specific way. Like the same thing with another like data analysis tool or whatever. Like, so again, my question would be like, so why does it have to be this or that? If we're doing like project-based or process-based learning, right, in a course, the students are developing critical thinking skills while they are engaged in the process. But if they don't have the time to do the process, then the skill gets measured in the standalone thing, right? And then that defaults to form, right? So then it's not actually about the practice. It becomes about the like container. Yeah. Like R, right? It's like saying like, well, so like R isn't the thing that like that applies the, like, that's the person, right? And they're doing that through the tool. Right. So like if they're writing in, you know, an MLA or APA paper on whatever the topic is, the thinking's happening while they're practicing, writing, revising, like, you know, working through whatever the thing is. That doesn't mean that skill development doesn't disappear just because then they don't have, you know, freshman composition anymore. But like it might show up in a different form. And so that's, I think, what is missing. It's because people tend to like to measure the form.
The form, right. So the way I'm interpreting what you're saying is R is not important. The fact that a student spent a year using any platform to analyze data is what is important. What form or what tool they're using can change, transfer, develop. But maybe this is a flaw in my thinking that like it jumps to, okay, well then who's wrong in this equation? But for the sake of explaining my thought, what that points out to me is like, okay, well that's the theory, presumably, that an educator is having when teaching, I'm gonna bluntly say, an out-of-date platform for a year. And then the flaw on the other side is not seeing the fluidity of the core skill set to say like, you know, they see R, not Python, and they say, no, thanks. And there's a lot to that. It could just be that, well, there are candidates that have Python. And so we're not going to take the time to train somebody up. But I mean, there's definitely potential lost in making that assertion without a bit more of an open mind.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like if we're talking about assessment or evaluation, like whether it's like in hiring or in, you know, grading a paper, whatever it might be, if an assessment's going to be valid for measuring any particular skill or skill set, the constructs or the things that we're measuring have to actually reflect the thing that we're trying to measure. So that's where the sandbox thing comes in, right? It's like, are you trying to measure how, like, make a sandbox, or are you trying to build a sandbox with a hammer?
Right, use a hammer.
Right. And so the assessment of like, oh, they aren't using R would be valid if the question is, okay, you need to use R. Then I'd be like, well, why? Is whatever the outcome is dependent upon them using R as a method, or why are they using R? Are they using R in order to, because why? I mean, that
and
would
why
just,
aren't you using R?
Right,
I mean, like,
exactly.
maybe there's a reason, but like it's worth asking the question.
Right. And so, and no matter what, like, I think if we can kind of try to suspend the, like, why does someone have to be wrong immediately? It doesn't mean no one's ever wrong. It's just, I think when we jump to that first, we, like, miss the part where we, like, start trying to actually understand. And then we can actually come to a consensus on, like, what perhaps we can bridge and change.
Yeah, as with a lot of things in our work, it's like a lot of the misstep and barriers come from the employer side, trying to make an assessment, make a judgment, make a decision, make a viable product as quickly as possible, as quickly, efficiently, and predictably also as possible, of like, you know what, maybe this guy who's a great problem solver but uses R is really smart, but I'm going to get exactly what I'm looking for faster from this person that can just like follow instructions and use the tools that I'm already familiar with.
Yeah, reliability also matters in assessment, right? It has to be valid, but also consistent, right?
Yeah.
But so, like, I don't know. I think that is important, but I think I don't know, for me, I've made assessments or rubrics or whatever it might be for certain things, and then when I see how they actually operate, I go, oh, that didn't capture the thing I wanted it to capture, so then, like, the process part kicks in. I'm like, how can I try again? Yeah. And I feel like what you just touched on is like trying to do it quickly, fast, output. That's sort of like, well, if learning or building or whatever is just about the output, then yeah, like in my God, like, why wouldn't a student just go to ChatGPT if that's what they think it's about? Right. And so, like, my task isn't just tell them don't do it. It's like help them see what the value is in doing it, and then why they wouldn't need to.
If the skill that a student is gaining is just make the right output, that's not a very transferable skill.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
And transferable skills was kind of the next area that I wanted to go, which is like you talked about, the lack of bridge building, and that I think you have maybe some ideas of, from where you sit in particular, maybe, how to set students up to be more, you use the term future ready, or just like workplace ready, or just to have a more transferable skill set. So do you have any ideas on like how that can be accomplished?
Yeah.
Can you solve education for us?
Yes, I'm going to fix all of it. Just give me a box with them and I'll just dump it out and we'll,
There we go. Yeah.
We'll figure it out together. But I think that a lot of it's about transparency. Okay. So I'm like really transparent about, like, if I say to students, like, here's why for this part of it, I would, challenge this or this or this. And here's why for this part, so take an example like Grammarly. Okay. Or, we have generative tools like baked into our everyday lives, like predictive text, right? All that kind of stuff. Maybe nobody's ever talked about or said like what that actually does, right? Like maybe it's like, why, if I use Grammarly, then why is that like bad? I'm like, well, it's not like inherently like good, bad, right, wrong. It's just, what is the context that we're in? Yeah. It's sort of like, I can't actually see your voice. It's almost like putting a mask on the because it standardizes it to like, that's what it makes everything become. Right. And so it's sort of like, well, if my goal is to like see you develop and practice and learn and do, I can't tell what's you.
Yeah, there's no room to explore. Right. If that's the path of approach.
Right. And so I think like transferability, it's not, this might be a little controversial, but if we keep treating everything like, well, we need to teach one specific technology or way of doing something, that's also developing so rapidly at this point. Right. I mean, it's going to be obsolete tomorrow.
Purely Sisyphean.
Right. So if we keep teaching or hiring or doing anything that way, then like, that doesn't transfer.
Yeah, and it's a losing game on both sides too, because if I don't know, I think that it's fair to acknowledge like the concept of the speed of business that like say you have, we'll simplify the ecosystem to like a university that is partnered with a business. Lots of businesses partner in particular for talent pipeline, but the business is always going to be the first to adopt a new software. At best, I'd say it takes a year or 2 or 3 for the university to catch up and say, oh, we need to teach our students this platform. So it's a losing game on both sides if you're locked into the specific pass-fail requirement of, do you know this software? One, the university supplying talent in this pipeline is not going to be able to do that because they're not on the same page. And the employer is going to be so locked in on, you have to know this particular software that they're going to overlook all of the students that hopefully have gained some like transferable critical thinking skills. And so yeah, both sides, and this also transfers to manager-employee relationship of like, acknowledge the skills that a person is bringing and the maximum, I would say, applicability of those skills. Like, what does the person bring to the table? Yeah. How can we utilize that, even if it doesn't look exactly like what we normally do or what I walked into this room expecting?
Right. And I think like something you just said, I want to kind of like, I don't know, talk through it a little bit, if that's all right. I think like this is one of those points where like I want to understand thinking that isn't like a default for me. So like in that, I'm thinking about like when, you know, an employer or like hiring partner comes and says, well, they need to know this, this, and this. My first thought is, well, is a workplace not also a learning environment? And so, you know, it's not to be contentious, but it's also to say like, well, at work, is their goal to just do the thing you want them to do just with
keep turning the wheel.
To keep turning the wheel, or like, well, then pretty soon AI is going to be able to do all that anyway. So the question when I say like future ready, it's like, what are the things that can't be outsourced that way? So if we keep valuing that, like, that's awesome. Have the machines do those like hammer nail
the things
tasks,
that need to be done one way, the same over and over.
Yeah, and I don't mean like hammer, like there's value in doing that. Like writing sometimes is just like, oh gosh.
That was the Industrial Revolution.
Exactly.
We're approaching another.
Right. So, and what that is, that's an invitation, you know, that's an invitation to think about, okay, so now that this is developing, it's showing us, maybe we need to like reconsider what it is we're valuing, and we can talk to each other about that. Because, and that's what I meant by like a dyad earlier and like a cognitive architecture. I think the biggest barrier that like it takes both sides or whatever it is to overcome together is to recognize that they're balancing each other. They're counterweights, right? So like the academic institution that like hasn't adopted and like they're still using the technology of like a pen and a book and paper or something, right? And you know, the employer's saying, oh well, we're like first early adopters of this and that. You've got these like polarities, and we hear a lot of stuff in discourse, even in like in any name a field, you know, there's like everything's like polarizing, like it's a dirty word, right? But we don't call the North Pole and the South Pole like you know, oh, that's so bad. Yeah, that's such a problem that like they're so polarized. Like, no, actually, like the world turns on that axis. Yeah. And so that's what I think it's like, I try to, in my middle lane, whatever it is, my like bridge, whatever, whatever it is, whatever analogy.
Whatever this is.
It's the idea is that like helping us see that. Because it's like, well, everything is so polarized, or like, gosh, like, but why don't you do it like we do it? And the other person's like, why don't you do it like we do it? And I'm sitting here like, we need both because otherwise it just
it becomes falls. Very one-sided.
Yeah. It's just things aren't, you know, we're holding the tension at both ends, and so it's like, to learn from each other and be able to like get to that next step, whatever it might be, like we're going to kind of stay in that place if we're just like, well, everything's so polarized, it's so bad. It's like, well, what can we learn from it? Mm-hmm. Right? And we can. So like maybe listening about, you know, well, asking questions about, well, okay, so why do you want them to learn that specific tool? Mm-hmm. And they say, well, what are you teaching them? Like, what is this? Like, let me learn about what you're doing. And maybe that can inform, and we can just, because again, I feel like people kind of lose the plot sometimes there. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, what are we talking for? Are we talking to like win the argument and prove that like, you know, the North Pole is better than the South Pole for like, you know, mm-hmm. the way the Earth rotates? Like, I don't know. You know?
Well, I think that is a very good analogy for, you know, mm-hmm. what we are always championing with neurodiversity mm-hmm. also is like, you don't want a homogenous workforce. You don't want to only have one pole. You don't mm-hmm. want to have no new thoughts in, mm-hmm. you know, the way that you're, you know, making widgets or whatever your company does, you know, or making spreadsheets. Like mm-hmm. you want to have challenges, you want to have discussion where there are different ideas and where there is some exploration and where there's some, you know, opposing ideas and bridge building to make something great in between those two sides.
Yeah, I mean, we adapt through design, right? And if we don't have like diversity in design, right, then like how are we gonna adapt when like we design something that then presses back on us and challenges us? Then we have to adapt to that, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I guess that's just like my challenge in general. It's like if we really do care about preparing students and like that being a buzzword, right, of like future ready, whatever it might mm-hmm. be, that is very important. But so again, circling all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, like how are we defining that? Right. What does that mean? Does it mean like being ready to use tomorrow's like tech, or does it mean being ready to adapt and respond to whatever tech because we have the skills that we developed through practice and negotiation and you know, like
bridge
what does
building.
It mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Totally.
You know,
I love it. Very cool concepts. Great conversation. Yeah, I think that brings it all the way back around and gives our audience hopefully a lot to think about. Whether you're on the education side, the employer side, or somewhere mm-hmm. in the middle, I think there's something to be learned from exploring all of those concepts. Thanks so much for bringing those ideas, those examples. I know it opened my mind a lot. So thanks so much, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.